everyone. Welcome to our live broadcast of this month's Barbourville Board of Education meeting. I'm going to turn the meeting over at this time to our Vice Chair, Sandy Lundy, who is chairing tonight because we have our chairman who is unable to be with us tonight. So, Ms. Lundy, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome to our live broadcast of this month's Barbourville Board of Education meeting. Sandy, can you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. First on the agenda, we need to adopt the agenda. We have a motion,
I'll make a motion.
I'll
a
second.
second.
I'll second.
All right, now we're gonna do a roll call on all these. So Jason,
Yes.
Juanita,
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Now, we need a motion, actions by consent.
I'll make a motion.
A second,
I'll second it.
Jason,
Yes.
Juanita,
Yes.
and Will.
Yes.
Okay, actions for discussion. Discuss and or take action to award bids, approve contracts for occupational therapy, physical therapy, special education evaluation services, visual impaired services, pest control services, fire alarm security services for 2020, 2021.
Are there any changes in any of these contracts this year? Okay.
Fire alarm security services for 2020, 2021.
Okay.
Jennifer, would you like to go over that process and explain the bids that we have received?
Are there any changes in any of these contracts this year? Okay.
You have them.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Fire alarm security
Yes.
services for 2020, 2021.
Jennifer, would you like to go over that process and explain the bids that we have received?
Are there any changes in any of these contracts this year? Okay.
You have them. Okay, can
I'm
you
sorry,
hear
we
me?
seem, may I interrupt for just a moment? We seem to be having all kinds of feedback where we're streaming. We're having some feedback and we're a little delayed, so we'll try to ignore that. At this point, Jennifer will explain to the board the bids that we have for each of those. We have opened up bids and she will discuss who has submitted a bid. We're having some feedback and we're a little.
Okay, can you hear me?
Try to ignore that.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so we only received one bid on each of the services. There were no competitive bids that came in. So under the visual services, we received a bid from Joy McKeon at the rate of $80 an hour. So on the first one, if you want to, do you want me to go through all of them and then vote at the end?
Tim, do we need to go through all of them or do each one individually?
So
I'm sorry, Tim, you're muted.
You can list them off and then vote on them as a group.
Okay.
Okay, so visual services, again, that's Joy McKeon, $80 an hour. Under the contract for physical therapy services, that is Barbourville ARH at $60 an hour. Again, physical therapy, $60 an hour. For the invitation to quote for special education evaluation services, we received one bid as well from Marcia Dixon for $60 an hour. for fire inspection and monitoring services. We have a bid from Johnson Controls. And it's for an annual contract cost for Barbourville Elementary, $1,760. And Barbourville High School, an annual contract for $3,040. And all service calls and labor that would be outside the scope of the normal contract would be for billed at $152 an hour. And I apologize, I said that we only had one on each of these. We actually ended up getting two on fire alarm inspection services. And the other quote is from Alarm Tech Fire and Security. And that is for a total annual cost of $3,975 and a billable rate for extra services above and beyond that contract for $65 an hour. So if we need to go back over that before you vote, we can go over those two.
So the only quotes that you have more than one is the fire alarm system. Every other one, we only have one bid. Jennifer, could you speak to how comparable the bids we have for those items are as far as what we paid last year?
These, all the ones that we have other than the fire alarm and security services are as the current contract that we're under now. The last one was also from Barbourville ARH for occupational therapy at $60 an hour.
Okay, so the prices basically have stayed the same with all of those. So Tim, did you say we need to do individually?
You can, on the bids that you only had one bid, you can vote on that as a group.
Okay.
So any of those you only had a single bid, you can approve all those by one vote. So did you have,
Okay.
did I understand there at the end, we had one that may have had more than one bid?
The only one that had
Yes,
more than one
fire
bid was
alarm.
fire alarm, yes.
So what the board, what I would do there is vote to approve all the other ones other than that, and then vote to select which of the two on the fire alarm that the board wants to choose.
Okay,
So that would, if the board's so inclined, that would be a motion to approve all the bids where you received a single bid.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all of the bids that we received a single bid.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes,
Will.
Yes.
And then you would need a motion to select one of the multiple bids on the fire alarm.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Was there a recommendation as which one of the bids that you wanted the board to consider?
The lower bid came from Alarm Tech Fire and Security. If I'm not mistaken, is that who we're using now, Dennis?
Yes.
and we have we been satisfied with the service we have received from them?
So far, yes.
So I would make the motion to accept the bid from Alarm Tech for the fire alarm services this year.
I will second.
Okay, Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes,
and Will.
Yes.
Okay, is that all we need to do on that one?
yes, yes, that completes that agenda item.
Okay, so discuss and or take action to renew with KSBA for 2020, 2021.
Okay, that of course is the Kentucky School Board Association that you all receive your training from. So I would absolutely suggest that we renew our membership with KSBA, and they provide the updates to our policies for us as well. And we've had great luck with them.
I'll make a motion that we approve our contract to renew our membership with KSBA.
I'll second it.
Okay, Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Okay. Discuss and or take action to surplus bus.
Mr. Carey?
We have a bus at the bus garage at the Knox County Bus Garage. It's bus 96 that we had the motor destroyed so that we could get the discount, the EPA discount on bus 3664 that we now own. We could surplus that bus and take bids. I called today just to make sure within that grant that we were doing it right and really didn't about taking bids on that bus due to the grant. So we could still surplus it and I could get a definite answer before we took bids on it.
Okay,
But
what is the
it's-
question that you have, Mr. Carey? What is the question? Maybe Mr. Crawford can address it.
With that grant that we got to purchase our new bus, we had to destroy the motor in bus 96 that we had. It was due to, I guess, the EPA Clean Air Grant or
Yes.
something of that sort. And it's just set up at the bus garage for the last 2 years with they videoed the mechanic drilling a hole through the block of the engine. I really didn't get an answer today from Wayne Supply, which is now Boyd Cat, if we could sell that. But he talked like we could. I'm just not definitely sure.
Tim, have you had any dealings with that situation?
I haven't, but if the grant required that motor to be destroyed, the motion for the board would be to declare that motor surplus and then approve what action that you're recommending.
The motor's not going anywhere. I think that we're just going to take bids. We could surplus it and possibly take bids on the parts and maybe the shell of the bus.
But just as long as the board declares it surplus, then you could take bids on it and try to sell it out as a whole or as parts, as long as it doesn't violate the terms of the grant.
And I will double check that before we take any bids.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we declare bus 96 surplus and accept bids on the parts.
I'll second it.
Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes.
Will.
Yeah.
Okay. Discuss and review school emergency plan.
The school emergency plan that we got has not changed from last year. Does anybody have any questions? There is a chance that we add our reentry to that emergency plan for this year. But nothing other than that will have changed.
So you need a motion for us to renew or just to review it?
We discussed it and that you've approved it, yeah. But there's no changes since last year, except we will add what we are going to discuss here in a few minutes with the reentry.
I'll make a motion to approve the school emergency plan as submitted for 2021.
I'll second it.
Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Okay. Discuss and/or take action to approve agreement for school resource officer 2020-2021.
It's my understanding that the city police have agreed just to continue the current contract that we have.
I would like to add to that conversation that this is, we still have time, and this is so that we can have on our plate. They have agreed. The Barbourville City Police Department did a great job with us last year, rotating their staff for the salary schedule that you did set for them. So we were very pleased with their services. However, what, again, I wanted to point out is that we only pay for those services on the days that school is actually in session for students. So should we go virtual, we pay nothing for those days, virtual, complete virtual, we pay nothing for a school resource officer. Even though we're under different circumstances with COVID, we still have a safety bill that we have to follow and enact. So we are still required to have a school resource officer, and they are still required to meet certain standards through that department at the state level. So if you wanted to continue the contract as it is, then you could make a motion to do that tonight, to continue the contractual services as we did last year with the Barbourville City Police. Or if there's further discussion about that, it's time for us to do that too. We don't start school until August the 26th. So we need something in place prior to August the 26th. We were very happy with the services that we did receive from the Barbourville City Police Department last year.
I did contact our state contact for the state school marshal about their training, and that has just been delayed until they can get back in.
Okay, and we do not have to pay for them on days that we are just virtual, correct?
That's correct. When the whole, if the whole entire school is virtual, we do not pay. If we should be dismissed as we were last year and not allowed to come back for that extended period, we did not pay last year on the days that we were not in school. That's correct.
I'll make a motion that we renew our contract with the Barbourville City Police for school resource officers.
Ms. Dixon, I'm sorry, I had one question. Is that in writing?
Yes, actually, it is in writing, and what I will do is let Tim take a look at it again and shoot it to you guys, contingent upon Tim's approval of that contract, if that will work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Please, thank you.
yes.
I'll second it.
Jason,
Yes.
Bonita,
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Okay. Confirm board member for local planning committee for district facilities plan.
Okay, we are moving forward with our district facilities plan and our inventory system with our work from Ross Sinclair. And I know that Ms. Bonita has served recently on our last district facility planning committee. We need the board to elect someone to do that again. And I think she does a great job if she's willing to do it, unless there's someone else that's willing to do it. She's already very informed about it, has served on the committee more than once. So I will leave that up to the board to ask one of the board members to please serve on the local planning committee for district facilities planning.
If there's a volunteer or someone who has an interest, I do not mind at all.
I think we talked about that a little bit, and I thought you were going to do it. You make a
I did too.
good
So
memory.
do
Yeah.
I.
I would do it unless someone has a real interest in it and wants to do it, you know. So, you know, either any of the board members interested? I'll do it. That's fine. If they want me to.
We just need a motion that she will serve as your representative.
I'll
I'll
make,
make a motion. Well, I'll second it then.
Jason,
yes.
Juanita,
Yes.
I vote yes.
all right, discuss 2020-2021 reentry.
Okay, I'm going to start, but I want to begin our discussion this evening to reassure our students, our parents, and our staff that we're listening to their suggestions. And we have paired the suggestions and preferences from our parent surveys and our staff surveys with our guidelines and guidance from CDC, Public Health, and KDE. Of course, our priority is health and safety of our school community. While providing you with options that are flexible, that must meet our public guidelines, we are still at Barbourville extremely focused on providing our students what they deserve, a high quality education. I first want to share with you, although our plans are based on the guidelines and the feedback, we've consulted with our local health department and took time to walk through our reentry plan and talk to Rebecca Raines at the Knox County Health Department, and she helped review the things that we have in place for our reentry plan, and she'll continue to do so. And I have to say that this partnership is very critical for the health of our community, and we're very pleased to have Rebecca Raines, who's always willing to field any questions that we have. And I want our public, our students, and our parents and our community to realize that we're going to see more changes. We ask for your patience and your understanding that this is a year of flexibility. It is a year that we have to take guidance from those who are the specialists in the public health field. Now, I know that our parents and our faculty and our staff are all very concerned because this is very uncertain time. It's very unprecedented, and we have numerous unknowns in this calculation that we're dealing with on our reentry. But I will reassure all of you that we are following and will continue to follow every guideline to our maximum potential. We believe that when possible, our students and our staff need the interaction with our students in order to maximize learning. So when this is possible, we have chosen as a district to follow strict guidelines to allow some in-class days to occur. But I do want to clear up a few concerns that I know parents have. It's been mentioned to me, and I love that. I love to have the feedback, and so does the board, so that we know what your thoughts are and your concerns are, and we can prepare for those. But again, I want to clear up just a few things, and I'm going to do just a real quick overview, and the administrative staff team are going to do a more in-depth discussion with you about each of their areas, academic programs, professional development, the transportation issues. So first, Barbourville has more than one option for instructional learning. It's not one way or the other. We have more than one option for instructional learning. If you are unsure as a parent, or if you have medical reasons within your household that would prevent your child from doing in-class rotations, you have the choice to do complete virtual instruction. This allows the experts, our teachers, to plan, prepare, and deliver lessons based on state standards. They are going to even grade the work. So it takes some of that pressure off of our parents that choose the virtual option, because this will not look like it did last year. You will have the teacher there the entire time to guide the instruction, to help facilitate discussion. So we're also there's no need for a homeschool option, because we have what you need to be able to provide rigorous educational learning within your home. As a school district, if you need technology or if you have technology issues, we will provide the technology you need, and the teacher as well to do the hard part for you. So there are more than one options at Barbourville. Secondly, We have made a hard choice this year because we do realize that there's fear out there, but there's also issues of parents that are faced with childcare options and finding childcare for their kids because we're doing a rotation schedule. And we realize that working parents and grandparents, they have to keep a schedule, and it makes it more difficult when we're not going to school 5 days a week and we have a rotation schedule for their kids, and we understand that. But a decision to allow in-class instruction to the maximum guidelines possible is a decision that came from our parent surveys. So we had almost 90% of our parents who wanted to do in-class instruction. So that is why in-class instruction is also an option. We secondly have to talk about mask and social distancing guidelines. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of information floating around that makes all of us nervous as school administrators, as faculty and staff, and as parents. So we at Barbourville will not require a student to wear a mask all day. We will not require a student to wear a mask all day. A mask must be worn when moving. You move, you mask. Those are the state guidelines. Or when students cannot maintain the 6 feet space, they will mask. So there's 2 issues that we're dealing with: wearing a mask and social distance, which all are guidelines from our public health officials. I don't have to have a mask on if I am 6 feet from the person in front, behind, to the right, and to the left of me. Those are according to guidelines. So we are not requiring kids to wear a mask all day because we see that as the most controversial issue and the hardest issue to overcome. It is very hard for adults to wear a mask all day. It's especially hard for little kids to wear a mask all day, and it's even as difficult for middle and high. So that is why we've had to look at a rotation schedule in order to be able to maintain a safe social distance within the classroom and not require kids to wear masks all day. We must cut down on the number of kids that is in that physical space. That's why the rotation has been selected. It allows you as parents to get what you wanted as far as in-class instruction according to our surveys, while allowing us to follow all health and safety guidelines to keep our staff and your students and our school community healthy and safe as possible. So we want to clear up the fact that a student is going to have to sit in a classroom from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock wearing a mask. That is not what will be required here at Barbourville. We will follow all guidelines, and the guidelines does not say you must do both. Okay, and again, we have talked specifically with the health department and Rebecca Raines about each of the steps that we are taking here. So the you move, you mask is something that you've heard a lot if you watch any of the communications with our governor, the commissioner of education, or our public health people. So that is basically what will happen. When kids rotate, maybe they're going to lunch, which we will talk about later, because they do go to lunch while maintaining social distance, while masking because they're moving. So there's lots of things that our administrative team will point out to you, but I wanted to clear up some of the misunderstandings that we have so parents can feel more comfortable about what students are having to do while they're here, and very comfortable about the fact that we're taking every measure possible to protect our staff and our students and our school community. So again, we do not require that a mask is worn all day. You mask when you move, and you mask when you're closer than 6 feet. We can accommodate a class of 24 in one classroom and maintain that 6 feet apart. With that being said, we have tried to eliminate the mask wearing as the biggest barrier and gone to a rotation schedule where we have 2 groups that will come in on rotating days so that we can maintain all of that safety guidance. Now, although we're still referring to our remote virtual days as NTI, simply because that was already a piece of legislation that we could utilize to help us should we need to have to miss more days and be off site. It is not NTIs in the past. It will not look like last year. Remote days or distant learning days, you will hear us use those terms interchangeably. That means you will be working from a different location other than the brick and mortar building at Barbourville Independent. Last year was an emergency. NTI days did look different, but this year we've had enough time to thoroughly plan, to purchase, to develop different methods that are much more effective in covering state standards and making sure that we are moving students toward increased academic achievement. So that is the reason that it does look a little different. We've had the time to prepare and funding to purchase what we need to make this more effective and efficient. As a staff, we will wear a mask as we move around the room because we will not always be maintaining that 6 feet if we're going to communicate closely with students and we are less than 6 feet, we will have a mask on. If we are at the 6 feet or more, they do not have to wear a mask. When classes move from the classroom to the hall or for pickup time in the afternoon, they will mask. Now, although we already have purchased and are getting ready to place our floor decals as reminders to stay socially distanced, as reminders of how far apart that 6 feet would happen to be. When we're in those community areas, we're still going to mask in order to control what is happening in those places where there may be less distance than 6 feet. So that's why we say when you mask, you move. Although we want to make the wearing of masks fun as we possibly can. We know our kids and our parents and our community have really gone through some mental health issues because of the things that COVID has brought to us. So we're going to follow guidelines, but as we always try to do here at Barbourville, we're going to try to liven it up. As you see behind me, I know you've probably been wondering what this big masquerade mask is behind me, but every year we start our school year with a theme that the kids can relate to, and we do instructional activities around to try to lighten it up. So this year, our school theme is Masquerade, and our focus is behind every mask is a story. If you notice, again, this big prop is behind me, and then we will all be wearing our own or our faculty, which we have more than one, Barbourville Independent mask. We will all be wearing those as well. So to liven it up just a little more, if you haven't taken a look at the flyer that is on Kara Thompson, who is our Promise Neighborhood Program Coordinator's Facebook site, our school Facebook site, and also mine, you will find a mask decorating contest. So we're going to have basically a spirit week where kids can, if they want to participate, as I said, to lighten up the mask wearing issue. One day they will have a mask that represents the decade that they like the best. Can you just not see all the tie-dyes coming in? One day it's their favorite sports team. So there's contests and recognition for kids who want to participate in that, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. And again, behind every mask is a story. We felt like mental health was a true issue, and having communications with our students, being able to talk to them, telling each other our stories has been really important to us. So that's what we're doing to try to make wearing a mask a little more enjoyable. And we're looking forward to that. In addition, we're focusing on best teaching practices for hand washing and hand sanitizer use throughout the day, throughout the school year. So as an example, the rotation schedule, if you choose to do in class, we have 2 groups. Kids are divided into 2 groups. We're calling group 1, or one group the blue group, and the other group the white group, blue and white, Barbourville. So we have 2 groups. We will have the blue group, for instance, remain with the blue group in the classroom to maximum possibilities. But we know that parents are really concerned about students having to sit in one spot, in one seat all day long, and so are we. So what we intend to do is we have built in opportunities for outside breaks, outside learning, all different. We're going to lunch, but when we do that, we're maintaining all of our guidelines. We are following all of our rules because we have less students. We can do that. We can make it work simply because we have less students. So that will happen, parents and students. We will not ask kids to sit in one seat in one classroom all day without movement. We are planning opportunities that will keep everybody healthy and safe, but allow the movement that we know kids and adults need. So that is going to happen. And we've heard your concerns about that. We've worked to provide appropriate activities for your students and focusing on the health and safety. Now, the other question that I've been asked, and I will say, unfortunately, but not because we don't want to do it, it's the circumstances that does not allow us to be able to take requests for particular days or particular groups that you want to be in this year. There's so many, there's numerous variables for our staff having to divide students into these groups. For instance, if we have a family of 5 and they have children in all these different grade levels, first thing our administrators have had to do is look at that family and place them on one of those rotations. They all are placed in the same blue group or in the same white group to make it easier on our families. Can you imagine having 3 kids and they all have to come on different days? So we've tried to consider the family needs. So all students in one family will come on one day. So also we're having to look at the numbers in particular grade level classrooms because all of our classrooms are not the same sizes. There are 50 variables about planning and grouping kids together. And we just are not going to be we're not going to be able to accommodate requests for, I got to have Monday, Wednesday, or I've got to have Tuesday, Thursday. In order to make this work to the maximum capacity for all students, in considering our special education needs and how we also have to group kids that have to have support services, we just don't have the capacity to do that. So this year, until we are back to regular instruction of some regular daily basis, we will have to do the groupings based on the administrators meeting all those variables that they have to meet within that classroom. Does anyone have any questions to this point?
Mrs. Dixon,
yes.
one of the, I guess, concerns I've heard, and I know that the district was working on them, and it's a concern that any large, I guess, scale group has at this point, is ensuring that they have enough supplies on hand, hand sanitizer, soap, that kind of thing. And I know that the district had been working very hard on getting those things. So it
Yes.
might help parents and everyone to know that we've been very successful in that.
Yes, Jason, and Mr. Messer will address it specifically when we get to our buildings, but I will tell you that we were given COVID relief funds, and the largest majority of that money for one of those grants went to buying foggers that we can instantly sanitize a whole classroom. We have about 6 of those. We've bought touchless sanitizing stations that'll be sitting throughout our building. We bought supplies actually not supplies. We've leased machines that are touchless water bottle machines that uses a foot pedal, so kids do not have to touch those. We have purchased thousands of dollars. We've purchased the mask for students that do not have the mask. And parents, you can let your kids wear the mask that you choose for them to wear. And if you don't have those masks, we will provide those masks to our students don't have those, we will also keep the extras in the classrooms hanging in a protected spot. So if someone sneezes or coughs during the day into that mask or whatever, that we will have extras in the classrooms. But we have, we've purchased particular new scrubbing equipment for our floors. We've purchased new ventilation vents and stuff all throughout our high school buildings that have been installed over the summer. So we've spent thousands of dollars, probably close to $100,000 or more, on those kinds of supplies to make sure that we have what we need. Now, if I were a parent, I am a parent, but my child's much older. But if I had a school-age parent, we are going to allow our teachers this year to ask parents who want to send in Lysol wipes and things like that to do so if they choose to do so. Because I would be worried as a parent that there would be enough immediately on the spot. What I can tell you is there is enough, and we will continue to order it regularly. But we will also let parents who feel more comfortable about sending particular things with their kids to send those things as well. So I think that's a really good point. And as I said, they will talk a little bit more about the plans, the rigorous plans for disinfecting as we go. We'll be doing things such as anytime kids are not in the classroom, the doors stay open to circulate. We've had classes on how to circulate and get more air moving through your building. So we have made a lot of adjustments with buildings and grounds as well as with technology in order to be able to provide the safest environment that we possibly can. So that's a really good point. You will have, we will provide, because we've also had parents say, we don't know what to do. How are we going to keep up with when our kids go to school? It's going to be a mess. But what we will do is we will try to release by the end of the first week of August, because remember, parents, we're not coming back to school to August the 26th. We will release to you blue or white. And we will release a calendar for the year with you that if you're blue, you look at all the blue blocks, and that's when you're here in class. The other days is when you're virtual. Mr. Carey did a great job putting that together for us. If I'm the white group, I look at the white days on my calendar. Those are the days that I am in session, in school, on site. So we're putting that together to make that a little easier for parents to be able to follow. And I want to get back to the request thing, because I know that's a big issue from parents, but one of the things that's very important to us is being consistent across the board. Of course, if there's emergency situations that are difficult or different, please contact administrators. They will be very conscientious of your needs, but we will have to have a system of being consistently fair across the board with placements and voices in the placement issues. I can assure you that every classroom will be doing a great job with your students, but as far as all the variables that are going in, it is impossible to take 700 requests for students for not only days that they want to be virtual, but for, do you want to be virtual all the time, or do you want to be a blue, or do you want to be white, and are you riding the bus? Those, there's a lot of things that go into that planning. So we value that and hope to be able to return to that. But right now, that is not a planning possibility for us if we're following all of those guidelines. We ask our parents to hold off on purchasing backpacks and lunch boxes. Even today, with our conversation with Rebecca Raines at the health department, she's waiting on new updated guidance that she expects to get any day to clarify exactly what the guidelines would suggest for us to do. I will say this, parents, we cannot touch the backpacks and clear and clean those out this year. So if you go through a metal detector, which we still will, and it beeps, we cannot ask our staff to be contaminated because they're going through your backpack. So if it beeps, it doesn't come in. So we are going to have to really work on cutting down on the items that are brought into the school, leaving as much as we can here, working with our families to do that. We are also purchasing individual water bottles for our students to use that we will label We will also run those through our high degree kitchen dishwasher every day and keep them within our building. So we will not be allowing outside cups like we have in the past, the large metal cups and things to come through, because first the metal detector will go off and we can't search the bags. And secondly, we need to cut down on exposure from outside germs being brought in. So those are some things, parents, I know you're anxious about. I love backpack shopping. I know you do too. I will tell you to make sure to look at any zippers. If it's heavy with zippers, it's going to beep. It's not going to go through. Give us a chance to get this new guidance, and we will do an update the very day that we get it so that you can be aware of what the guidelines are for what we need to suggest come in that would be the safest possible for us. So we ask you to hold off on that for us if you would. Now I know this is all overwhelming, as it has been for all of us, planning and trying to make sure that we're meeting guidelines and still be able to provide a very rigorous instruction. So as of now, we're prepared. To follow health and safety guidelines and to keep the health and safety of our students and our staff and our community in mind. We firmly believe that kids and families and staff without medical problems need to be here. We think public education is about interactive conversations. Public education is about encouragement and support, and these things are important, as well as our health and safety. We're prepared should we get guidelines that say we are not allowed to return students to class. We're prepared much more so than we were last time because we have purchased an upgraded technology. We have a device that will be issued to every single student. That student will take that device with them every single night in case that is the last day that we are allowed to be in session. The instruction will continue just as it has with the virtual instruction for home. So we feel prepared. We feel like that there is a plan. We've got point people in place to address any concerns. This is not perfect. It's not all going to work. There are going to be things that we are going to have to change. There are going to be issues that we are going to have to readdress. But this is the time that we're in. So at this point, we feel good about the preparation and the guidance from our public health and what we can and can't do. Please know that we all parents take this responsibility very seriously. We do not take it lightly. We have followed our guidance as a school district. We have read and researched the data that is out there around this COVID epidemic. We are on top of the changing information as it comes in. It is very serious to us to make sure that you know that we value your health, your students' health, and our community's health. We have valued your opinions through this process. We've worked to eliminate your concerns and plan to provide great educational opportunities for our students this year. Now, I hope that I've cleared up just a few of those misconceptions or questions that you may have, and our administrators are going to touch on some of the other issues specific to their areas. Please feel free to email any school administrator or curriculum coach, and it's first dot last name at bville.kyschools.us. Example is kay.dixon, D-I-X-O-N, at bville.kyschools.us. So feel free. So let's start out with our first person reviewing your part of the reentry plan.
Okay, I'll go first. One of the things that we have in place, and we've touched on, or Ms. Dixon's touched on some of the things we'll be doing for students. We also have an employee workplace health and safety that we're going to do. There'll be temperature screenings done each time the morning when the employee checks in, or when they sign in, they'll have their temperature taken. 100.4 or higher, of course, they'll have to go home. We can't have anyone here with a temperature 100 or higher. Now, depending on the number of cases in the community, the Knox County Health Department may lower that threshold of 100.4. We will be using non-touch thermometers will be used. The staff will be 6 feet apart with masks, practicing the social distancing guidelines. This will prevent congregating together. Anyone who, again, tests above that threshold, they will be sent home. There's going to be an employee health self-assessment. Basically, if employees are sick, they're to stay home. If they exhibit any of the symptoms, which could be fever or chills, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, a new cough they've developed, a loss of taste or smell, or gastrointestinal symptoms, they need to immediately go home and notify their healthcare provider of their conditions. And if we, in the event that we do have an employee or a staff member to test positive for COVID-19, that person will have to be quarantined period based on the local health department guidelines and the partnership that we have with Family Health Care. We'll have access to rapid COVID testing for staff that would like to have that done. We're going to do that for any staff that would like to have it done. We've got a day set aside for that. If an employee has a negative test result, they can return to work once they're fever-free without medication after a 24-hour period and no other related COVID-19 symptoms. If an employee tests positive, they have to do the following: notify the supervisor immediately of the related absence, quarantine, the CDC public health recommended amount of time, which is 2 weeks, 10 days, provide data for contact tracing at work. And that's one thing that we're doing. We've, even with our plans for our students, we have contract tracing, sort of like a seating chart where all students are going to be at all times in the event that we have to do tracing data to see who they've been in contact with. And of course, they can return to work following that quarantine period of time. If they develop symptoms during the workday, that's something that they have to notify their supervisor of and go home immediately. And that person will be tested immediately and begin a quarantine period until the test results are available, showing that they're negative. But we're taking this serious. We want all of our employees that's classified, certified, and everyone who works within the school system. There's going to be a daily log for those teachers and employees as they come in with that temperature recorded. We'll be following all the guidelines with face mask and social distancing as well. So that's what I have as far as the employee workplace for their health and safety during this time that we're in.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
That would be me. I've got the health assessment at school. As far as the bus riders and the drop-offs in the morning, the bus riders, parents need to ask you to check out your child in the morning, do a quick health assessment, make sure that you're doing a temperature check before sending them to the bus stop. Monitors will be doing temperature checks before they board the bus. If the fever is above 100.4 degrees, we will not be permitting the student to board the bus, and they must return home immediately. If there are no symptoms, students can board the bus. Mask will be required on the bus at all times. We will be loading the buses from the back to the front. So if you're loading, when you get on, you got to go all the way to the last seat in the back. When you get to school, you must wear the mask all the way until you get into the classroom. On the drop-offs, it was recommended by the health department when a parent or whoever is dropping off a child, all the adults and the students in the car must be masked. Students will have to unbuckle their own seats and step out of the vehicle. Staff will not be able to open the doors or unbuckle seat belts like we have in the past. Just like on the bus, a temperature check will be taken at the vehicle. Any student 100.4 degrees or above will not be permitted to go in the building and must go home. If no symptoms are observed, the student can enter the building, wear a mask exiting the vehicle, and keep that mask on until they enter the classroom that they have in the morning. In the room, seats will be placed 6 feet apart, and the mask can be removed. If a student during the day shows signs of symptoms during the school day, the student will be isolated immediately until the parent can pick the child up. Also, in the afternoon on the buses, no child will be able to ride the bus home if they are showing symptoms. If a student has been exposed to a person with COVID-19 or test positive themselves, they must notify the school, or the health department will notify the school. If the parent notifies the school will double check that with the health department. You must quarantine for the CDC recommended amount of time. You can do the remote learning while you are quarantined. We also need the student to provide contact tracing the data for that, and they can return to school upon the completion of the quarantine.
Mr. Carey, if I may interrupt, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that these guidelines are guidelines given to us by our public health professionals who know the medical profession much better than we do. And the reason we're sharing this with you today is we want to make sure you understand that we're following all procedures and all steps in order to be able to gather, even in a rotation group, and to have instruction on site. We are checking the temperatures, doing all the health screenings of our staff before they come in. We have all of these precautions in place because they're suggested by public health. So it's very important that every parent understands and every student that we are following all the guidelines that are set there for us to our maximum potential to ensure that we are not adding to the problems that exist. So as Mr. Carey shared with you, Mr. Middleton, our staff and students are both screened before they ever step into a building with other children. So I wanted to address the issue about the drop off because we just confirmed today with Rebecca that we cannot even wear gloves and open those car doors, which is something that we all love to do. My principals love that, and my support staff that was always out there every morning, but it's cross-contamination if they reach from one door to the other. So it's going to be important that parents realize that we've got two issues we're dealing with, so this is a little uncertain. We wanted to do the temperature check before the child exits the vehicle, but we can only do that if the adults and other people in the building are masked, because it puts our staff at risk if they're doing a temperature check and other people in that vehicle are not masked, they're closer than 6 feet. So with people who come in who are masked in the cars, we will do the temperature check before the kid ever gets out of the car at the window. We want them to be sitting there at the window. If the parents don't have masks or the other people in the car don't have masks, we will have designated spots where the kids will get out of the vehicle. They will come to the red circle. That's where they'll stand for their temperature check so that we can maintain the social distance from all the kids that we're following through with that. So unfortunately for parents, another lesson we're having to teach is how to unbuckle those seat belts, how to get out of those car seats, and how to open those doors. And that is something that you're going to have to be patient with us on, because it's going to take a little more time to learn how to do, for our kids to learn how to do that. And we are heartbroken that we can't open those doors and get those kids out. So those guidelines are there by our public health. It's not something of our choosing, but it's something to keep you healthy and protect our staff and students. Let's see, who do we have next? I've already talked to you a little bit. It looks like I was next about the social distancing, what we've done for ventilation as well in our classrooms. Face masks, we're going to talk to kids and have lessons for kids on how to wear them, how to handle them so that you're still not contaminated. You know, they grab them here and put their hands all over them. So Like anything new to our kids, new learning, we have to teach them the process. So we will be working to teach kids the process of how to wear a mask correctly. We'll do little mini videos that we'll share before school starts to try to make it something that's fun and kind of eases their minds as well, and show them how to remove those and put those on without causing some contamination there when they're doing that. Our areas that are small and social distance that cannot be maintained, such as our staff work area, is closed. We will not be opening it until we have the go ahead from public health, because we cannot maintain a large group in those areas. So those places will be closed. We're dividing our classes in half. We're having to be flexible because with larger classes, if we're only doing 2 rotations, we have to find the largest spaces so we can get the most kids in. So some of our teachers are having to rotate classrooms. Our specialty teachers will be moving on carts, and they'll have to go through the sterilization process every time they enter a new room. But that is so that we're not cross-contaminating our different age groups of students, that our support staff will be going to them. Mr. Messer is going to address some of those things Jason brought up about cleaning and disinfecting in our particular areas.
Yes, Dr. Reeves, if you would ask me in May, are we ready? I would have told you no, because as you guys all know, you've been to the store, you've looked for Clorox wipes, you've looked for hand sanitizer, and that wasn't possible in May. But I'm feeling more confident every day. In fact, I get probably 50 emails a day with people wanting to sell PPE to the school. So it's a thriving business right now. Mask, hand sanitizer right now is not hard to come by. It may not smell the way you want it to smell, but we can get hand sanitizer. We're having a hard time right now with Clorox wipes, but I think we've solved some of that. We will have disinfectant. We have the stuff. We have, like Ms. Dixon mentioned, we have bought lots of stuff. We've been stockpiling since the start of summer, and we've bought a lot, and it's just now getting over here from China, believe it or not. But I feel confident in that. I'm not going to lie to you. I stay up at night and try to rack my brain at what I've missed, but I think we have all that covered. There was a shortage of spray bottles at one point, but if you walk around our school enough, you will find lots of spray bottles that we bought in the past. So I feel confident. We're going to focus on high touch areas in the classroom. That's one place that it's going to be sanitized very frequently throughout the day. In the evenings, all classrooms will be heavily sanitized and cleaned. And for the next day's class, I've even thought about maybe after the room is sanitized in the evening, we may put a green sign on the door. Let everybody know this classroom's been sanitized, and if you go in there, we have to re-sanitize. So that's something I've been thinking about. We've almost got all our PPE stuff. We're good. We're going to also train all our staff on disinfecting. That's one thing I think is important, not just our custodial staff, teachers, aides, custodians, maintenance, anybody that's in the classroom. Miss Dixon will go through that training. Absolutely. Because we're all going to have to be diligent. Hand sanitizer, feel good about it. We've bought portable stations. We've stocked up on automatic dispensers for a long time. We have a good stockpile of that. So as far as sanitizing I feel like our building will be sanitized. We're talking about, we'll even go out on the playground and sanitize the equipment out there. We want the kids to be able to enjoy the playground and the classroom. This is not normal times, but we want to make it as normal, as safely as we can make it, because I know that kids are excited to come back to school. I've talked to them. I have 2 in my house that are ready to come back to school and see their teachers. They miss their teachers, and they're ready to come back. But we're going to come back, and we're going to social distance, and we're going to wash our hands every time we go somewhere. And I think really as a society, we're going to learn some good habits that we can take after COVID leaves. And I know at times this kind of can be depressing, but we're going to get through this. And their kids, they might not be able to see our smiles through our mask, but we're going to have smiling faces when kids come back to our school in the end of August.
Very good. Mr. Messer is actually doing a schedule. We will be in those classrooms during the workday at least twice to completely fog down when they're out at either the cafeteria or outside. And the bathrooms will be done a minimum of 2 and probably at least 3 times per day with the fogger system to make sure. Of course, the doorknobs and light switches, that's a given. Everybody's going to help clean in all those areas. So we feel really good about that. Like I said, we've got equipment in that allows us to do the job a little faster than we could have done it before the equipment. And Mr. Messer has done a really good job of starting immediately ordering the things that we need. We talked about it before we even were out of the last school year and started ordering some things. And that's one of the reasons that we do have those things in. So being proactive does pay off, and it has for us. So I appreciate everything that everybody has done to make sure that we have what we need to get started. Let's see. Mr. Carey, I think Ms. Sprinkles could probably sum up the academic delivery. I think I've already talked about the groups we're having. So let's skip Ms. Sprinkles to the instructional return and the preschool plan.
Okay. As you know, and we talked about it in the spring, teachers met with us back then in May and looked at their standards and their curriculum to determine the essential standards that they didn't get around to teaching or that they couldn't master due to the remote learning. They listed the standards that they had, and they met with other teachers, the teachers that were in their same content standards that were above them, and they talked to them and of course below them as well, and ensured that we had vertical alignment on those standards that we just didn't get around to. So we worked on ways to embed those and look at those standards in our curriculum where we have them to close those gaps. Now, when we return, we're planning on looking at the next section of the reentry guidelines from KDE. And that includes incorporating formative assessments, which will look at the teachers will look at for instructional daily routines so that they can make adjustments to the instruction based on the student needs. So if the students are having trouble in an area, they'll see that through these formative assessments and be able to change their instruction to meet those needs. We're planning on creating some pacing guides for the school year that will include these gaps that we had from last year that we might have missed, to close those. And we're hoping to create some lessons ahead of time and have those available just in case, things change, so that they know whether you're at school or you're not at school, all of them are the same and they flow very nicely. So those are some ideas that we have in place at this time and things that we want to work on. So our academic reentry is a process, and it's something that we're working on, something that we're going to be working on. And I hope that it's exactly what we need. I know it will be, because we've got such wonderful teachers. Does anyone have any questions about that before I hit preschool? I went pretty quick.
Amy, I would just like to say that we get actually some time in a seat with our teachers. We will return as a staff safely and social distancing within our spaces. On the 14th of August. So we have from the 14th until the 26th we're even going to walk through a kid's daily schedule as a staff to see what life in a day for a child will be like, and do some things like that. So we're more aware of not only the academic reentry, but also what our kids are going through and dealing with as we do this reentry. So thank you, Amy.
Now I'm going to hit real quick on preschool. Preschool's been a little bit different because, you know, those are our youngest children, and everyone was saying at first that masks, they couldn't wear those due to strangulation and suffocation. And that's still very, very important. But they have kind of lightened up on that a little bit and said that we can choose to allow them to wear masks if they're being transported. So we would have an adult sitting next to them. On the bus, they would sit in the front of the bus. They would have someone to make sure that they were wearing those masks properly. And that will help in order to keep that from spreading from those students as well. So I was really glad to hear that yesterday in one of my meetings. As far as social distancing with preschoolers, that's going to be difficult. But I have in mind that we're going to divide our group into 2 groups. So we'll have a Monday, Wednesday group and a Tuesday, Thursday group. And that would include only 10 kids at a time. So that makes the number so much smaller so that we can spread them out at 6 feet. And we'll probably have to do some different arranging of how we teach, however, making it developmentally appropriate, but allowing them to teachers to maybe assign where they're going to play. So if they go to the block area, you may have 2 students in the block area, but they would be able to play at 6 feet distance so that they wouldn't have to wear masks at that time. We're planning on no Friday sessions because we're going to use Fridays as our sanitizing day. Just the fact that those children will be in different areas of the room throughout the week, playing with different toys and different things, we'll need to deep sanitize everything a lot more. So that's gonna be our time on Fridays to be able to do that. I do have screening scheduled because in order to attend preschool, you have to be able to. So we're going to do that at the end of August and the 1st of September to determine eligibility. And we've got all the social guidelines in place for that screening, and plan on doing that, you know, and getting them in appointments and one at a time so that it's, you know, very, very safe. We also are going to offer an extended remote learning time. So if parents want to choose to just keep their children at home, we can still enroll them in our program if they are eligible, and they can remote learn. And we have a plan for that. And it's a really good plan. So I hope that if we have parents that are nervous about sending their young children, that they may at least think that that would be a good method for them. So I really hope that they think about it before they choose not to do it. We're also going to have clear masks for our teachers. And we've ordered those for kindergarten and 1st grade and preschool as well, so that young students can look at those facial expressions that teachers have and look at their mouths for letters and sounds and phonics, things like that are so important for them to see their teacher a little bit better. As far as going outside on the preschool playground, we're going to do that. We're going to go out in smaller numbers, but we'll sanitize between each time. But we have to get those young children up and moving as much as we can. So we felt like that was very important. And I think with all the help we have in the preschool, we'll be able to do those kind of things and sanitize and keep them safe.
I think so. And the reason for the difference is the preschool's age, their young age, and the wearing of the mask more. We will be cleaning still every day and multiple times a day in those rooms, but they need one major break in preschool, the staff does, in order to clean the different objects. Because in a 3rd grade classroom, the student doesn't move all day long while their teacher's instructing. They're in that seat. And in preschool, it's movement all day long. So it does require a lot of a different look at it based on the age of the kids and the way the classroom is, the curriculum is designed, for one thing. Thank you, Amy. Mr. Carey, could you address the specific bus issues for us? I do want to say that in order to protect all of our students, all students riding our school buses will be masked. That the younger children, there was a concern with preschool, and we have a monitor that will be placed in the front of the bus with the preschool students sitting in the front of the bus, as Amy said, or someone said, to make sure that that doesn't happen. So all of our students are required to wear a mask if they're transported by a bus. Mr. Carey, anything to add to that?
Just real quick, I'll do the bus section. Each rider will have an assigned seat, whether you're Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Bus run, between each bus run, those buses will be disinfected between each bus run. You will not have to have a temperature check on the afternoon run. Upon entering the bus at any time, hand sanitizer will be available, and you must use hand sanitizer when going up on the bus. The ventilation, as long as we can keep windows open in that bus and weather allows, we will have ventilation available in that bus. Also, the two buses that we run most of the time during the day have air conditioning on those with clean filters that will be in those. Drivers and monitors, for their safety, they will have a temperature check. They'll be checking themselves in the morning, as well as the monitor that's on that bus. And they will be wearing mask, a face shield, and gloves while on the bus, especially the gloves are required with elementary children. So during the morning run and in the afternoon run, bus drivers will have gloves on.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Is there anything else? Okay, Mr. Middleton, if you will please walk us through the process of continuation of services, and then address where we are with our reentry for sports very quickly for us, please.
Okay, as far as our services going to be provided for students who require the extra services based on IEPs or 504s, we're going to continue to follow the recommended guidelines as far as the distancing goes, as far as if the teacher is working with those students, if it's a pull-out type thing or a specific service, whether it's OT or PT, they must wear the mask, and when they're actually in contact with those students, they must also have gloves, as well as that goes. With our speech, we've actually ordered some masks that you can see through where the mouth is, because a lot of the speech is positioning of the mouth and the tongue and things of that nature. So we have that, and we also have plexiglass shields that we can put between the speech teacher and the student when they're working on their speech services, as far as that go. And as soon as they're finished with that, those will be sanitized and cleaned down before the next student uses those. We're going to continue to provide the services for our students as is in their IEP or their 504. That's something we're committed to doing, and we will do that following these guidelines that we have in place. As far as the sports goes, we're following the guidelines. We are still at a minimum of 10 participants. That's including the coach. You can have no more than 10 total participants at one time gathered. They're limited to 6 hours per week of practice. So we've got that limited as far as practice times are scheduled. There's no more than 6 hours a week for those students in those particular sports. If they're not in sport related activities or drills, they must have a mask on. They have those masks on. If they, at the end of practice, if they have to address the team, they have their mask on. Distance out 6 feet apart. They have, each coach has a thermometer before those students ever enter the facility, or if it's an outside activity before they ever participate. their temperature is taken and it is recorded. If they have stations that they do, if it's an inside facility, they have the tracing chart or seating chart. Player A and player B was in this station here. We are limiting the use of equipment. We're talking about basketballs, volleyballs. You can share a basketball with one partner. Once they're finished, that has to be sanitized. There's not, as far as running through full team practice or drills, none of that's taking place. It's all individualized type instruction or working in pairs, two people with one ball. Same goes for volleyball. So we're really keeping up with it, and we're making sure that the distancing is in place, that the sanitizing is in place. Our coaches are responsible after practice to sanitize the entrance door the students use, and they use a separate exit door. They sanitize that. The common areas are closed off. The locker rooms are locked. They're not allowed in the locker rooms. We have the restrooms open. Only one person at a time can be allowed in the restroom. That's posted. So we're taking every precaution that we can. Stuff's provided for those coaches to clean the equipment after each practice, to sanitize the doors that's used. Again, they're required to bring their own water to practice if that's what they choose to drink, or Powerade, Gatorade, whatever the case is. They bring their own. We're not using the water fountains. We're not using our coolers with the cups. We're not doing any of that. It's all individualized to stop the cross-contamination that day. That's pretty much what we're doing. It's limited to 10. It's still limited to 10. We've got no guidance from the KHSAA nor from the governor that's saying it's more than that. Of course, you all know that the governor has now just recently limited the amount of gatherings to 10 people. So that just supports what we're doing here with our athletic program, keeping it at 10 or under. Does anyone have any questions about the athletics or the special education services, or how we're providing those extended services for our students?
I would just like to add that we haven't touched on, but we have tracing documents for every practice, every condition. We will have the documents that show where kids are every time they move from one spot to the other in our buildings. And we will work directly. And this is something that a parent also asked me about, was the confidentiality. Should a child be diagnosed as having COVID? We're not medical professionals. We're educators. We're professional educators and not health service people. So we will work directly with public health. If we hear about it before our health department does, we are to call our point people, not every staff member. We have 2 point people in our district. Mr. Carey serves as our CARES Act coordinator, and he's the chair, and April Messer is the second person. So between the two of them, they will communicate with Rebecca Raines in the health department, and the health department will do all the tracing. They will do all the calling. They will do all the talking to people to find out who was exposed and all of the issues. It is not something that we will do at our level. Now, should there be an incident where multiple people could be affected because of someone here on site contacting COVID, then we would probably have to do a blanket announcement to our staff. And that would be like our custodians. They're in and out of every single classroom every day, but they are protecting themselves by doing the things that they should. But if something should happen, they're more than likely, they're in and out and around more people. So we would have to tell our overall staff that someone on our team has tested positive, but the health department again would take over calling and notifying and running down all of our documents. But our coaches have done a fabulous job at every practice. They've documented the temperatures, they've documented the drills, where kids are, so that if there are any questions, because these are not our guidelines, these are the state and public health guidelines. We would love to be back in full swing, but if we don't follow the guidelines, we're less likely to have a season period. So we are following the guidelines in hopes that we are doing things right, so we will be able to return to normal sometime very soon. Last up, and we have Josh and Pam, and I think Pam, you're up next, and we're almost finished, guys.
I was just going to hit briefly on the teacher trainings. We do have 3 days that the teachers will be working as part of their contract days, and then 4 PD days prior to school. We will begin on August the 14th, as Ms. Dixon said. However, I'm going to send an email out to see if teachers would be interested in coming in maybe that first week of August to get a couple of days in a little bit earlier. And Ms. Sprinkles and I will work with them to allow planning a little bit ahead of time so that they can walk through some things with us. So we're going to try to give them that option. Ms. Sprinkles went through what we will be doing on those days, how we will be doing our curriculum work based on the work that we ended the year with last year. I did send an email out to all the staff and ask for courageous volunteers of who would be assisting or be willing to assist as a digital learning coach. I have 4 people who really, like within 15 minutes, responded and said they were willing to do that. So that is a group around the state. It is facilitated by a KDE facilitator, and we've already met with her. It's over 250 people across the state that serve in that capacity. And those 4 teachers are going through a series of trainings, and they will help me as we do the back to school trainings to educate the teachers and assist them in using the technology, whether it be for the alternating virtual days or if we should have to go to the extended remote learning. So they will provide leadership and guidance. They're going to help identify best practices and help us to get resources for all of the digital instruction that we may be required to do.
Okay, the only thing I would add to that is, again, our staff health and safety is a priority. So we will be social distancing. We'll be doing some across the room sessions. We will not ask all of our teachers together at one time or together in one space. So we will be protecting the health and safety of our teachers by maintaining small groups and social distancing and even doing some virtual things. So we were really happy to have some digital volunteers. We're using the Google Classroom as our platform. We're learning new and various things that it will do. And so we're really excited about that and the work that Pam and the team are doing with the professional learning in order to not only grow our students, but to grow us as teachers and educators too, because the new use of technology has really stretched everyone and they're doing a great job with it. So we're excited. Did you have anything else, Pam? Okay, I didn't forget you, Amy, so I'm going to slide you in. This is Amy Collins. Most of you know Amy. Amy is our food service director. She will be working and has been working with the food service group. And I think today was the first day they really had some additional guidance, but she's going to be really brief and tell you what we know now and tell you that this too shall change.
Yes. At today's webinar, they made it very clear that it was today's information only. So of course that'll be changing. But according to KDE, students can eat in the cafeteria if they are 6 feet apart. They suggest the students to face in one direction and of course have assigned seats for tracing. The food that can be served is the same as that's been served as in the past for students that are on site. Students that are being taught virtually or at home can also be fed. Those students, we've applied for waivers. So the students don't have to be here in person to pick the food up. Their parent or their guardian can come on site and pick their food up for them. And students that are full-time virtual we're going to try to maybe do a 1 time a week pickup or a 2 time a week pickup so they don't have to come every single day to get their lunch. That's still kind of in the planning process. As far as our kitchen staff, they're going to be very protected, 6 feet apart. The kitchen's going to be rearranged so that the staff's 6 feet apart. The employees will be masked and gloved. There's lots of cleaning supplies for the staff. The students, when they come through the line, will be handed their trays. They'll be handed their milks. So there should be no reason that they touch anything that another person is contaminated.
Very good. We're glad that the kids actually will still have the opportunity. We are we talked to the custodians yesterday about placing the furniture so kids would all be facing in one direction and getting the most kids into a section. In our new side, we can get about 30 kids at 6 feet apart. So we're planning on utilizing both sides when we do like high school lunches. And we're having to be real creative to see how that works because our teachers do still get duty-free lunch. But we have the facilities to do it now with our extra cafeteria, so that helps. And then when the weather's good, we also have outside where we can move our tables around and allow our kids to go outside. And we will mark everything. As Dennis said, I think today I ordered $300 worth of different colors of painter's tape. So if you're blue, this is your blue seat on Monday and Wednesday. And if you're green, this is your seat with the green X, and nobody else is going to touch your seat or anything under it, and we're going to clean. So it is a long, lengthy process, and everyone has done such a good job. The last thing we're going to talk about is Title I, which is Title II, I'm sorry, which is teacher quality, and that's Mr. Josh DeBoard.
Considering how atypical this school year will be, I think it's going to be probably more important than any year in the past that we're able to pull on.
Sorry, you're muted. Let me unmute you, Josh.
Sorry. It's going to be more important than ever to be able to pull in the expertise we have within our own district, to have teachers helping teachers, whether it's with technology issues, strategies, or other problems that may come about considering how we're going to have to run this school year. So luckily, for the first time since I've been over Title II, we actually got a slight increase in the amount of money the state government sent us. So we'll be able to use that money to ensure that we can help each teacher in whatever area they may need assistance with.
Thank you very much. You're not off the hook, Sam. You want to tell them real quickly what Frisky is doing and some of the purchasing that you're doing for kids?
Yes, we are actually doing, each week we're doing a 300-gallon milk giveaway, and I would encourage anyone and everyone to come and get that because we are having some left over that we are having to work to give away. So we have some that we're actually giving away again tomorrow. I'm also purchasing some PPE, some masks, thermometers, and things through our program to help with that. We also are going to do school supplies for the kids for home and for school so that they'll have all the things that they need. So I'll be working on that order to come up. So if anyone has any suggestions of things that you will need, particularly for your student at home or at school, I'm going to be doing that purchase. Also doing some fun purchasing as far as the masquerade. We've purchased masks to go with their important masks. We've purchased some fun masks so the kids can kind of have fun with something that's not necessarily going to be fun for them. We still have lots of food in our food bank. So if we have kids that need food, if anybody has anyone that they know that needs anything, if they can get me those names, we need to get this food used up. We don't want it to go bad. Lots of clothing donations that we've gotten for our kids. So if we have kids that we feel need school clothing, we have tons of clothes that people have donated because they've been stuck home and cleaning out those closets. So if anybody has anyone that needs any of that, we have a lot of that. We're also purchasing drawstring bags for the kids to put their devices in. So every kid will get a drawstring bag to keep that device in to try to help take care of it and get it back and forth to school. So we'll be purchasing those as well. And I think that's about it.
I think you're purchasing the cups, the water bottles as well.
We're purchasing all the kids a water bottle to use at school. We're doing that through Frisky as well.
Yeah. We're trying to get those drawstring bags, if we can, clear so we can see them without having to open things or have the kids to take them out and delay getting into the building. But everyone's doing a great job, and it's a team effort. Ms. Hubbs has worked very hard on the scheduling, and our finance people are always on top of our grants and the things that we have, and our administrative team is phenomenal. So we're looking forward to returning with our teachers on the 14th. We hope that parents feel more comfortable about the options that we are providing for their kids and how important it is to us to protect their health and safety and follow the guidelines to our maximum ability to do so. And are there any particular questions about the reentry plan, as that concludes the pieces and parts that we have in the reentry plan?
I have a question.
Yes.
I just got a question. Some children, have fevers and little colds and stuff like this, and we're going to be hyper vigilant because of COVID.
Yes.
But children normally get little things like that, especially when school starts back in the winter. What are we going to do about parent notes or doctor's notes? Are we going to hold their feet to the fire on the same standards we had before? Or are we going to give a little more leeway for safety reasons this year? I mean, what?
Actually, it's a little more difficult than it was last year because we can't allow them to come back. If they leave, if a child gets sick, once they're here, they will go to our health professional, which is our school nurse. Our school nurse will make a judgment call. However, if they have a temperature, they cannot return until they have not had a temperature without medication for 24 hours. And if they were to have a test, then the decision could be made that they would have to be quarantined if their test was positive. So it's actually going to be that we have to have a note for kids to get readmitted in lots of situations where they have symptoms that could be a symptom of COVID.
Okay.
So let's vomiting, muscle aches, pains, diarrhea, fever, those are all symptoms of COVID, headaches. So if we have students who leave our school because of that, or we have a parent that calls and says they have that, then we're going to have to say, you have to have a medical statement until return. We have to know you're cleared by some type of public health entity. So we don't have a choice. All symptoms of COVID, headaches. So if we have students who leave our school,
say they get them home, say they keep them home.
Yes.
Say they've got a fever of 100 and they figure out they've had a little UTI and they have them drink lots of water. Can they come back to school the next day, or are we going to have the same amount of parental notes is what I'm asking, or doctor's notes for excuses during the year?
Okay, it's actually going to be more complicated for parents because if they have a fever from strep or a UTI, they still can't return to school. They have to meet the guidelines set by public health because it's a symptom of COVID. So we have to have, it has to be cleared by a medical professional. They couldn't come back in less than 24 hours. If they had a fever, say 20 hours ago, they can't come back to school until they've had 24 hours, no fever, no medication. So actually it's probably going to require them to answer to us less, but when kids are absent, it's going to involve a medical professional.
Okay, they will have to have some type of note from a medical professional.
Yes.
Okay, now our principals for attendance purposes, until they are classified as non-excused or unexcused absences, you only allow a certain amount of excuses. Is any of that going to change during the school year, or are we going to hold the same standards with that? I think
we have not officially changed that because we have the virtual option. So let's say that I go to the doctor and I have a fever, but I still feel okay, but I've got a fever. I can do my virtual learning at home. This year we are looking at participation and not daily attendance. So we have flexibility there because we require kids to sit out longer, that they could actually do the online learning when they have a medical excuse to do so, even if it's short term.
Okay, I feel like that's some questions that our parents will be asking.
Sure. Yes, and we are going to have case by case situations that we have to address one by one. But you know, we talked about this with our public health people. Every temperature doesn't mean COVID. Every headache doesn't mean COVID, but we have to rule it out, and we have to wait out a certain time period so that if it happens to be, we're not infecting our other students or our staff. So when kids are sick and they are sick with those symptoms, they will have to return with a clearance statement from a public health.
Let me add to that, Ms. Dixon, what
Yes.
she's asking. As long as if they are seeing a doctor and they have to stay home and they are still participating online in the class, we count that as the participation in the class.
Yes. Well, we don't want to get, I'm sorry, Benita, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
I just said, I'm sure that we will have a lot of questions.
Absolutely. And we talked with public health about the fact that we take everything serious, but we're going to have a lot of false calls. We're going to have, and I'm broadcasting live here, so people are smart enough to know the symptoms. So if I wanted to stay home for 2 days, I might have one of the symptoms. So we're going to have a lot of that we're going to turn over to public health because we're not health professionals, but we still have to kind of maintain our professional education standpoint at the advice from public health. So if we have questions about particular students and particular absences, we will say to public health, what should we do? And they will lead us and guide us in what we should do. And if they say, Ms. Dixon, I can guarantee you this is not COVID related, then we'll say you need to get on back to school. But we're going to leave the health issues up to public health. We're not health experts. They are. We know we're going to have kids who want to come when they're sick, and we're going to have kids that don't want to come when they're not sick. Adults, we're the same way. Those are just things that happen. So, we will turn the health issues as much as possible over to public health, and they want us to do that. And, we have a good partnership with them. So that helps us because I am not a health professional, nor is anyone else on my staff, I don't think, except our nurse, Geraldine. So we're going to turn a lot of that over to them. But as things arise, parents, feel free to call and ask. Feel free to call and say, this has happened and it doesn't fit this description, but we don't know what to do. And Mr. Carey or April can contact the health department and find out for you what we can do and what's the best case scenario. So we do have flexibility. We have virtual, which you can work from home. If you should be too sick to work from home, those lessons will be recorded. So we'll make arrangements. If we have some type of documentation of participation from you during that time frame, we can count you. So, but of course our goal is to do everything we can academically and not shortcut that. But if you're really sick, then you might not feel like doing real-time virtual. So there's flexibility there in those cases with documentation from medical professionals. Anything else? I know Sandy's got a real important meeting after this one. So Sandy, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you guys very much. Have a blessed rest of the week.
Thank you.